Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Pages with Maggie, breaking barriers one story at a time. Today we have episode 20, and I have the story here titled A Beautiful Seashell, written by Ruth Lurcher Bornstein, that I really think you would enjoy as much as I did when I read the book. Now, a little bit of context for the story. We have Rosie and great-grandmother spending a quiet time together as great-grandmother tells a story from her childhood in the old country. Now, the theme of this book, of this storybook, to me is really just forming that connection with your elderly relatives and, just forming that connection with the ones who have come before you, your grandmothers, or in this case, your great-grandmothers, and learning and appreciating the stories that they have. So without further ado, let's get into the story. Rosie and great-grandmother sat in the rocking chair by the window. They rocked and rocked. "Grandma," said Rosie, "tell me a story. Tell me about when you were little." Great-grandmother smiled. She closed her eyes. "When I was little," she began, "I lived in another country, on a hill near the sea. At night, I could hear the sea wind. Sometimes I heard foghorns. The sound of waves rocked me to sleep." Rosie and great-grandmother rocked and rocked. "Tell more," said Rosie. "One day," said great-grandmother, "the foghorns called, deep and low. My mother gave me bread and cheese and apples in a basket, and I climbed down the hill. The sea wind blew and I tasted salt in the air. I took off my shoes and ran as fast as I could through the wet sand to the shore. In the mist, I saw a big ship. It was covered with lights that shone through the fog." Rosie and great-grandmother rocked and rocked. "Tell more," said Rosie. "I watched until I couldn't see the ship anymore," said great-grandmother. "Suddenly, the sun broke through the fog. The seagulls flew in from the sea. I could almost touch them. I whirled and twirled. I danced in the waves. The cold water tickled my feet. Then my toes touched something, smooth and round under the water. I bent under and scooped it out of the sand." "What was it?" asked Rosie. "A beautiful seashell." "Oh," Rosie touched great-grandmother's cheek. "And then?" Great-grandmother opened her eyes. She looked at Rosie. "And then," she said, smiling, "one day, years later, I sailed over the waves, over the wide sea, and here to this country." "On a big ship covered with lights?" asked Rosie. "Yes, on a big ship covered with lights." Great-grandmother reached into the old black trunk she kept by her chair. "This is for you," she said. She put something in Rosie's hand. It was smooth and round and cool. "Your beautiful seashell," said Rosie. Rosie held the shell. Then she put it to her ear. She could hear the wind and the sound of the waves. she could almost hear the seagulls and the foghorns calling. She held the shell so great-grandmother could hear. And then Rosie and great-grandmother laughed and hugged and rocked and rocked and rocked. Well, that is the end of episode 20 of Behind the Pages with Maggie, breaking berries one story at a time. I really hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed reading it, and I cannot wait to see you in our next episode. Goodbye for now.